My golden child brother and his fiancée asked for my inheritance to fund their wedding, and my parents backed them up. So I exposed a dark family secret no one saw coming, and tore the perfect image they built to shreds. Hey, I'm Rachel. I'm 25, female, and the oldest kid in the family. We're just your average middle-class crew. Nothing flashy, but we always had enough growing up. My parents, Lauren and Terry, have been running a cozy little bakery in our small town for over 2 decades. It's the kind of place everyone knows, real homey, with fresh pastries and regulars who've been coming in since I was a kid. Life wasn't extravagant by any means, but we never went without. My folks worked hard to give us what we needed, and they raised both me and my little brother, Eric, to understand the value of hard work. Eric's 24, by the way, and if you grew up in my house, you'd know right away he was the favorite. No question about it. He could practically do no wrong. My parents were always quick to defend him, no matter what mess he'd gotten himself into. Slacking off at school? No big deal. Showed up 5 minutes late and smiled? Suddenly, he's the most responsible guy in the room. Honestly, I didn't let it get to me too much. I wasn't one to fight for attention or compete. I liked doing my own thing, keeping my head down and working toward my own goals. If Eric needed to be the family star, he could have the spotlight. It never really mattered to me, at least not until recently. That's when everything started to change. 5 years back, my grandfather passed away. That was a tough one. He and I were close. After the funeral, when the will was read, I found out he'd left me a trust fund. Now, it wasn't some massive fortune or anything like that, not life-changing in the millionaire sense, but it was a decent amount. Enough that, used wisely, it could really give me a leg up. The catch? I couldn't touch the money until I turned 30. And, even then, it was only for specific things: buying a home, going back to school, that sort of thing. At the time, I didn't think much of it. I'm not exactly the type to blow through money just because it's there. My plan was to let it sit until the time was right. Maybe I'd use it for a small apartment in the city, or finally take the leap and start the business I've been dreaming about for years. Everything was pretty quiet on that front until earlier this year. Eric popped the question to his girlfriend, Karen. She's 23 and comes from a family with a bit more money than ours. Now, I don't want to sound catty, but Karen's one of those people who's always on. She's bubbly, polished, charming, definitely knows how to win a room. At first, I liked her well enough. But after a while, something started to feel off. It all started during a family dinner a couple of months ago. We were sitting around the table, just chatting, when Karen suddenly brought up my trust fund. She said it like it was the most casual thing in the world, but it completely caught me off guard. She asked what I planned to do with all that money once I could access it. I kind of stumbled through an answer, saying maybe I'd use it to buy an apartment or start my own business. Honestly, is it just me, or is that kind of a personal question? What was I even supposed to say? Karen beamed at me and said, "Wow, that's so lucky." Then she threw in this little line, half joking, half not, about how she and Eric could really use a little help with the wedding. Or maybe a down payment on a house. Eric kind of laughed, like he wasn't sure if she was serious. I laughed too, thinking it was a joke. But then she just kept looking at me, like she was expecting an actual answer. It got awkward fast. My parents stepped in, thankfully, saying the money was mine and not really something up for discussion. That shut it down for the night, at least. But after that, something shifted. I couldn't shake the feeling that Karen had planted a seed. And pretty soon, it started to grow. At every family gathering after that, Karen would bring it up, always in a roundabout way. She'd say things like, "It's just amazing that you have that kind of opportunity, Rachel. So rare to see someone in a position to really help out their family." At first, I let those comments slide. I'd change the subject, maybe fake a little laugh. But she wouldn't let it go. And soon, it wasn't just Karen. Eric, who'd been quiet at first, started making little remarks too. Nothing outright rude, but you could tell where his loyalties were. He'd say stuff like, I mean, you're not even using the money right now. I finally went to my parents, hoping they'd step in and shut this nonsense down. But instead, my mom said something like, Karen just wants to feel included, that's all. She's not being pushy. I hadn't even said she was being pushy, but yeah, that's exactly how it felt. At that point, I started to feel trapped. I wasn't trying to stir up family drama, but I also wasn't about to give away money that, 1, I couldn't even touch yet, and 2, I had plans for. Still, I kept my cool and figured if I just stood my ground, this would eventually blow over. But then came another family dinner, and Karen pulled me aside. This time, there was no sugarcoating it. She said, Rachel, I really think you should reconsider what you're doing with that money. Helping Eric and me out would be such a meaningful way to support your family. Isn't it kind of selfish to hold on to it when you're not even using it? I was stunned. No one had ever called me selfish to my face like that before. I stayed calm and told her, point blank, that the money wasn't available yet, and when it was, I had my own plans for it. She just stared at me, like I'd slapped her or something, and said, I guess I misunderstood what kind of person you are. Eric called the next day to apologize. Or at least, that's what he said he was doing. He blamed Karen's behavior on wedding stress and tried to brush it off, but then he added, she's not totally wrong, though. You are in a position to help, and it wouldn't hurt to think about it. That really messed with my head. I started questioning myself. Was I being unreasonable? Selfish, even? I talked it over with a few close friends, and they all said I wasn't in the wrong. Still, it didn't make it any easier. The comments, the pressure, the feeling that no one in my family really had my back, it was starting to take a toll. It was becoming painfully clear. This wasn't something that was going to fade away on its own. Karen wasn't the type to drop something once she had her mind set, and Eric? He was riding shotgun on whatever road she was taking. As for my parents, they were smack in the middle, doing their usual let's not upset anyone routine instead of actually dealing with the issue. I didn't know how far this would go, but one thing I did know, I wasn't giving in. I wasn't just going to roll over and let them guilt me into something I wasn't okay with. Was I overreacting? I started asking myself that a lot. Maybe I was being too sensitive? I don't know, tell me what you think. Update 1. Hey, friends. I didn't expect to post again so soon, but honestly, things have gone from bad to worse. Way worse. I feel like I've been dropped into some kind of twisted family soap opera, and no one's giving me the script. Here's what's been happening lately. After that awful run-in with Karen, where she flat out called me selfish, I started to pick up on a shift. Nothing huge or dramatic right away, but it was there. People were treating me differently. At family get-togethers, Karen would give me these tight, forced smiles, and Eric started acting kind of cold. My parents were still doing their whole peacemaking act, but even they seemed weird around me. Then Karen started getting bold, like really bold. She developed this habit of pulling me aside at family events. Always the same topic, the trust fund. One time, she waited until everyone was distracted with the TV and quietly said, Rachel, I've been thinking, what if you gave us part of the trust fund as a wedding gift? Not the whole thing, just enough for a down payment on a house. I swear, it was like that trust fund had become her obsession. I honestly couldn't believe what I was hearing. A wedding gift? Who straight up asks for that? I told her no again. I explained, calmly and clearly, that the money wasn't even available yet. And even if it were, I had plans for it, plans I'd worked hard to make. She stared at me like I'd just kicked her dog. Then she hit me with, I thought you cared about your family. Eric and I are starting our life together, and this could really help us. It's not like you need the money right now. I was stunned. The level of entitlement was unreal. I didn't even argue. I just walked away. But the whole conversation left me feeling completely wiped. And it didn't stop there. Not even close. Over the next few weeks, Karen started dressing her demands up in nicer packaging. She started calling it a way to bring the family closer together. At one point, she actually pitched it as an investment in our family's future. I had to laugh at that one. What was I supposed to expect in return? Monthly dividends from their marriage? But the worst part was how Eric started to echo her talking points. He wasn't coming at me with full-on demands yet, but his comments were getting more pointed. "You're in such a great position, Rachel," he said once. "You could really make a difference here." It felt like he was testing the waters, seeing how far he could push without making me snap. So I brought it up with my parents again. I laid it all out word for word, what Karen had said, how Eric was backing her, the pressure I was feeling. And what did I get? My mom looked at me and said, "Karen just wants to feel like she belongs. And you know Eric's always had it a little harder than you, financially." I was speechless. Harder? Seriously? We grew up in the exact same house. Same parents, same schools, same everything. The only real difference was that I'd worked, saved, and planned, while Eric had coasted. Then my dad chimed in with, "I'm not saying you should give them anything, Rachel. But maybe just think about it. Sometimes keeping the peace matters more than being right." That one hit hard. Keeping the peace? Was that what this was about now? Sacrificing my future just to avoid rocking the boat? At that point, I realized this wasn't just about Karen anymore. My own parents were backing her up, whether they meant to or not. The final straw came not long after that. Eric and Karen invited me out to lunch, just the three of us. I figured maybe it was a chance to reconnect or talk things through. Nope. I walked right into a setup. They made small talk for a bit, wedding plans, colors, venue stuff. But then Karen leaned forward, all serious, and said, "Rachel, we've been thinking. What if you gave us half of the trust fund? You'd still have plenty left, and it would take so much stress off of us." Half. She actually said half. Like it was no big deal. I told her, as calmly as I could, that the trust wasn't even accessible yet, and even if it were, I had zero plans to give away any of it. That's when her tone turned nasty. She started accusing me of hoarding money, acting like it was unfair for one person in the family to have so much when others were struggling. Eric jumped in too, saying, "I see where she's coming from, Rachel. This could really help us out. You're in a good position." It felt like they were tag-teaming me 2-on-1. I left that lunch feeling completely wrung out. Then a few days later, my parents called me over for what they called a family meeting. I walked in and, surprise, Eric and Karen were already there, looking pretty pleased with themselves. My dad said they wanted to find a way to ease the tension and keep the family together. Then he hit me with it, "Rachel, maybe it's time to think about giving them a portion of the trust. Not half, but something. Just to show your support." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My parents, the people who should have been protecting me, were now pressuring me to give up part of my inheritance just to keep Karen happy? I said no. And this time, I didn't sugarcoat it. Then I got up and left. Since then, it's only gotten worse. Karen's been talking to extended family, spreading her version of the story. Now I'm getting calls and texts from relatives I haven't heard from in years. Aunts, uncles, cousins, all telling me I'm being selfish, that I should do the right thing. It feels like the whole family's turning on me. I've tried setting boundaries, but no one seems to respect them. I'm at the point where I'm seriously considering legal action just to protect what's mine. But the idea of going that far against my own family? It makes me sick. That's where I'm at right now. I honestly just needed to get this off my chest. If anyone out there has advice, I'm open to it. Because right now, I feel like I'm losing my grip. Tough day 2. Hey again, Reddit. I didn't think I'd be back so soon. I have no idea how many updates it'll take, but honestly, I'm barely holding it together right now. You know what's really sinking in now? This whole thing, it's not just about Karen anymore. Somewhere along the way, it turned into a full-on family meltdown. Everyone's caught up in this trust fund drama like it's some kind of life or death situation. After that disaster of a lunch with Eric and Karen, where they had the audacity to ask me for half the trust fund, I figured maybe they'd back off. I thought I'd made myself crystal clear. The money wasn't available yet, and even if it were, I wasn't handing it over. I was annoyed, yeah, but mostly just hoping that if I kept my distance, things would eventually cool down. Then my phone rang. It was my dad. He asked if I could swing by the house because they wanted to chat. But the way he said it, overly calm, like he was trying not to spook me, immediately set off alarms in my head. I asked if this was about Eric and Karen, and my mom jumped in with, "Not exactly, but it's important." Against my better judgment, I agreed. The moment I stepped through the front door, I knew I'd made a mistake. There they were, Eric and Karen, already sitting on the couch, sitting straight like they were about to present a PowerPoint. Their smiles were fake, stiff, like they were trying way too hard to act polite. My mom motioned for me to sit down, and I knew then, this wasn't a conversation. This was some kind of family intervention. It started out innocent enough. My dad asked how I was, how work was going, just casual chatter. But it didn't take long to get to the real reason I was there. My mom leaned in and said, "Rachel, we've all been feeling some tension lately, and we just want to find a way to move forward." And I knew. Here we go again. I glanced over at Eric and Karen gave me one of her trademark tight-lipped smiles, like she knew something I didn't. Then my dad added, "We think it would be good if we could come to some kind of compromise." Compromise? I asked, already feeling my blood pressure climb. What kind of compromise are we talking about here? Eric leaned in, looking about as uncomfortable as I've ever seen him. "Rachel, look, we know you have plans for the trust fund, and we respect that. But Karen and we're in a really tight spot. We're trying to plan a wedding, look for a place to live. Even a little help from you would mean a lot." Before I could respond, Karen jumped in. "Exactly. It doesn't have to be a big amount, just something to show that you support us. It's not really about the money. It's about family." That word again, family. They kept throwing it at me like it was a weapon, something to shame me with. I took a deep breath and said, trying to keep my voice level, "I've said this before, and I'll say it again. The trust fund isn't even available yet. And when it is, I already have plans for it. I'm not giving it away." My dad shifted in his seat, obviously uncomfortable. "We're not asking you to give away half, Rachel. Just consider helping out a little. It could really ease some of the tension we've been feeling." I just stared at him. "So I'm supposed to hand over money I can't even access yet, just to make everyone feel better? How is this my responsibility?" Eric let out this long sigh, like I was the one being difficult. "It's not just about the money," he said. "It's about showing you care. You're in a good spot right now, and this could be a huge step forward for us." I looked at Karen, who was sitting there like the queen of the room, all smug and self-satisfied, and I just lost it inside. "This isn't fair," I said, trying hard to stay calm. "I've worked hard to get where I am. I've saved, I've planned, and that trust fund is part of my future. Why should I be expected to give that up just because you two decided to get married?" Karen's smile vanished. Her voice turned cold. "It's not about fairness, Rachel. It's about family. Eric and I are building a life together, and you have the ability to help us. It wouldn't even hurt you." Then my mom stepped in, speaking gently but just as frustratingly. "Rachel, what Karen's trying to say is, maybe this is a chance to bring the family closer. Sometimes it's better to compromise than to hold on so tightly to something." I blinked at her, stunned. These were the same people who had always supported me, who I thought had my back no matter what. And now? They were siding with Karen. "I'm not holding onto it tightly," I said, my voice sharper now. "I'm following the rules. That money isn't just some pile of cash lying around. It's part of a plan. My plan. And I don't get why that's so hard to understand." There was a long, awkward silence. And then Karen, because of course it was Karen, spoke up again, her voice frosty. "You know, Rachel, I think the real problem is that you're not willing to put the family first. Eric and I have always been there for you. And now that we need help, you're just shutting us out. It's really disappointing." That was it. I stood up. I'd had enough. I'm not shutting anyone out, I said firmly. I'm just not giving in to pressure. That doesn't make me selfish. It doesn't make me a bad sister. It means I have boundaries. I headed for the door, and my dad tried to stop me. Rachel, don't walk out like this. We just want to find a solution that works for everyone. I turned around and looked at them one last time. No. You want a solution that works for Eric and Karen. That's all this meeting was about. If you can't see how unfair this is, then I don't know what else to say. And I left. Since then, I've barely spoken to my parents. Eric and Karen have completely cut me off, which, honestly, has been kind of a relief. But the isolation? That part stings. I always believed, deep down, that my family would stand by me when it mattered. I never imagined they'd all turn on me over money I don't even have access to yet. I don't know what my next move is. Part of me just wants to cut ties completely. But another part still wants to believe this could somehow go back to how things were. That maybe one day we'll all come to our senses. For now, I'm just trying to take care of myself. Keep my head above water. But it's hard, you know? When the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally are the ones doing the most damage. Thanks for sticking with me, Reddit. You have no idea how much the space has helped me just get it all out. Update 3. Hey Reddit, it's me again. Things have somehow gotten worse. After weeks of being guilt-tripped, cornered, and treated like the villain, I finally hit my breaking point. I didn't want it to come to this, but I can't keep pretending it'll all just blow over. Not anymore. After that last meeting, I spent a few days trying to process everything. The calls, texts, and subtle judgment from relatives just wouldn't stop. It was like every day, someone new crawled out of the woodwork to tell me I was selfish or that I needed to think about what really mattered. And no one seemed to care that I couldn't even touch the trust fund yet, or that it came with strict conditions. All they saw was a lump of money with my name on it, and for some reason, they all felt entitled to a piece of it. The moment that finally pushed me over the edge came when I got a call from my cousin Kathy, one of the very few family members who's actually been on my side through all this. She told me that Karen had been running her mouth at family events, spreading rumors about me. Stuff like, Rachel doesn't care about anyone but herself, and it's just so sad to see someone value money more than her own brother. Hearing that made my blood boil. I always knew Karen was manipulative, but trying to turn the entire family against me? That was a whole new level of petty. And as if that weren't enough, Kathy also said Karen had been asking around, trying to dig up details about my finances. She was poking relatives for information, trying to figure out exactly how much money I had and whether there was any way she could access it. That was it. That was the final straw. I decided it was time to talk to someone who actually knew how to handle situations like this. I made an appointment with a local estate attorney and laid everything out, every detail, every text, every incident. The lawyer was stunned. She told me flat out that what Karen had been doing, pressuring me, spreading false claims, and digging into my personal financial information, could absolutely be considered harassment. She reassured me that the trust fund was airtight. Legally, I was the only one with any claim to it, and no one, not Eric, not Karen, not even my parents, could touch it when the time came unless I decided otherwise. That was comforting to hear, but it didn't solve the bigger issue, Karen's behavior. So my lawyer gave me a plan. Start documenting everything. Every text, every phone call, every comment. Anything that showed a pattern of manipulation or pressure. She also mentioned that if things didn't settle down, I might need to send a cease and desist letter. So, that's exactly what I did. I spent a few days digging through my phone, saving screenshots of texts from Karen, guilt trips from Eric, even the passive-aggressive messages from my mom. All of it went into a folder. It felt surreal, like I was preparing legal evidence against my own family. But at this point, I didn't know what else to do. Meanwhile, Karen kept right on going. She took her smear campaign public, posting these vague, dramatic updates on social media about selfish relatives and family betrayal. She didn't mention me by name, but come on, everyone knew who she was talking about. Some of the comments were just plain mean. And then I started getting messages from people I hadn't spoken to in years, asking me what was going on. It was exhausting. And then, just when I thought she couldn't stoop any lower, things got even weirder. One of my coworkers pulled me aside at work and said, "Hey, just so you know, someone's been calling HR asking about your salary. They claim to be a family member." I felt sick. I couldn't prove it was Karen, but who else would be doing that? The timing, the context, it all pointed in one direction. I called my lawyer again that night. I told her about the social media posts, the gossip, and the attempted snooping at my job. She didn't hesitate. She said it was time to send the cease and desist. The letter was direct but professional. It spelled out exactly what Karen had done, warned her to stop immediately, and made it crystal clear that any further behavior like that would lead to legal action. Sending it felt awful, like I was crossing some kind of point of no return. I didn't want it to come to this. But Karen didn't leave me with much of a choice. And sure enough, a few days later, Eric called me furious. "What the hell, Rachel?" he snapped. "You sent a legal letter to my fiancé? Do you have any idea how humiliating this is?" I tried to keep my cool. "Eric, I didn't want to do this. But Karen's been harassing me for weeks. She crossed so many lines, spreading lies, digging into my finances, dragging me through the mud." He didn't want to hear it. "You're overreacting. She was just trying to make you understand her side. This is about family, not money." I told him, if it's really about family, then why has Karen been going behind my back, lying to people, and snooping into my private life? That's not what family does. Eric didn't respond to that. He just muttered that he needed time to think and hung up. Things have been quieter since then, but the tension hasn't gone away. Karen stopped posting her shady updates online, and I haven't heard directly from her since the letter went out. But my parents? They're furious. My mom called me again, her tone sharp and frustrated. "Rachel, do you even understand how much damage that letter caused?" Karen's embarrassed. Now the whole family thinks we're falling apart. I was already tired when she said that, but I still answered. "Mom, Karen's been harassing me. She tried to turn everyone against me. She tried to access my financial information. What was I supposed to do? Just sit back and let it happen?" Her response? "You could have handled it better. We don't solve family problems by bringing in lawyers." That was the moment I realized, again, that no matter what I did, no matter how many boundaries I set or how much I explained, my parents were never going to be on my side in this. They were more worried about keeping up appearances than actually dealing with what was happening. Update 4. Hey again, friends. Back with another update, just like I said I would. And let me tell you, it played out in a way I never saw coming. Funny how sometimes people expose themselves without you even lifting a finger. So here's what happened. A few days later, everything exploded in a way none of us saw coming. Eric sent a group text that he meant to send only to Karen, but instead, he accidentally blasted it to our entire family chat. That included me, our parents, and a couple of cousins. And what he sent? It lit the whole situation on fire. The first message read, "I found the messages you sent to your friends about Rachel and the trust fund. Are you serious? You've been bragging about securing the bag this whole time." Then came the real bomb, screenshots. Eric had attached the actual messages Karen had sent to someone else. And they were bad. In one, she'd written, "Don't worry. Terry and Lauren will push Rachel into giving me the money. She's too soft to hold out forever." In another, she mocked me directly. "Rachel's so wrapped up in her little business dreams, she can't even see how selfish she's being. This money should have been split with the family from the beginning." And then Eric's next message, which hit just as hard. "I can't believe you've been manipulating everyone, me included, just to get your hands on money that doesn't even belong to you. This stops now." I don't even know how long it took to process what I was reading. The group chat went silent. No one said anything at first. Just radio silence. Then, finally, Eric realized what he'd done. "Oh no," This wasn't supposed to go here. I'm so sorry. But the damage? Already done. That chat blew up. My mom responded first, her message short but stunned. Karen, what is this? Is this true? Then my dad chimed in. Karen, you told us you were trying to handle things peacefully. Were you lying to us this whole time? Karen tried to recover fast. She replied, these are being taken completely out of context. I was just venting to friends about how stressful everything's been with the wedding. You're all misunderstanding. But no one was buying it. Not this time. Not with those receipts. Eric didn't say anything else in the group chat. I think he knew it was better to let the texts speak for themselves. But that night, he called me. His voice was shaky, like he'd just come out of a storm. Rachel, he said, I'm so sorry. I was going to talk to Karen in private. I didn't mean for you, or the rest of the family, to find out this way. I took a breath, trying to keep it together. Eric, I said, trying to stay calm, why didn't you say something sooner? You've been defending her for months, while she's been scheming behind everyone's back. He sighed, and I could hear the regret in his voice. I didn't know how bad it was until recently. I found those messages on her phone by accident. I couldn't believe what I was reading. I didn't know how to confront her without making everything worse. Clearly, I failed. He paused for a second, then added, voice cracking a bit. I let her manipulate me, Rachel. I thought she just wanted support, that she was being misunderstood. But now I see how far she really took it. I'm so sorry for all of it. And the thing is, I believed him. I wanted to believe he was finally seeing the truth. But that didn't erase everything that had already happened. Eric, I told him, I've been trying to tell you for months. Karen never cared about this family. She cared about getting what she wanted. I hear your apology, and I appreciate it, but fixing this? It's going to take a lot more than words. He didn't argue. He just said he understood, and after that, he kind of disappeared. The fallout from those texts was fast. Kathy, my cousin, the one person who had stayed in my corner through this whole mess, told me later that the family chat was buzzing for hours after I left it. People were finally starting to wake up. The same relatives who had been guilt-tripping me, calling me selfish, suddenly started changing their tune. They couldn't unsee the screenshots. Karen's mask had slipped. But of course, she didn't go down quietly. In the days that followed, she launched a full-on damage control tour. She started calling family members one by one, trying to explain everything away. She said the screenshots were taken out of context. That it was all a joke. That I'd blown things way out of proportion. And of course, she fell back on the old reliable excuse, wedding stress. But this time, nobody was buying what she was selling. The texts spoke for themselves, and the family wasn't falling for her anymore. Eric, on the other hand, went silent. No more defending, no more excuses. Just quiet. When Eric finally called me again, his tone had changed. He didn't sound defensive or angry anymore, just tired. Resigned. I ended things with Karen, he said quietly. I couldn't stay with someone who would treat my family like that. I can't believe I let it get this far. I could hear the regret in his voice, and while part of me felt for him, it didn't erase everything that had happened. It didn't undo the months I spent being painted as the villain. Eric, I said, steady but honest, I'm glad you're finally seeing things clearly. But you need to figure out why you let her manipulate you. Why you defended her even when the signs were staring you in the face. And that was where we left it for the moment. I just want to say thank you to everyone who commented, reached out, or even just read my story. I can't tell you how much it's meant to feel supported when I felt completely alone in my own family. As for Eric, I don't think he'll go back to Karen. I really don't. But at this point, it's not something I lose sleep over. If anything else blows up in this chaotic little chapter of my life, I'll be sure to share it. Final update, hola, amigos. Here's where things stand now. I never imagined things would spiral like they did. But surprisingly, I'm in a much better place today. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I can breathe again. Karen, of course, didn't go down quietly. According to Kathy, my ride-or-die cousin, Karen, was overheard venting at a family gathering not long ago, blaming everything on me. "This whole thing is Rachel's fault," she'd snapped. "If she had just done the right thing, none of this would have happened." Sure, Karen. Word got around that her wedding plans were falling apart. The fancy venue she'd reserved? Gone. The designer dress she'd been flaunting? Returned. She'd apparently been counting on me to bankroll her dream wedding, and when that didn't happen, her perfect little plan collapsed. Eventually, she ghosted completely off social media, out of family functions, radio silent. I didn't miss her. It was a relief, honestly. But the damage she left behind didn't magically fix itself. My parents, clearly shaken after the group chat meltdown, started reaching out to me more. My dad admitted they'd handled everything poorly. And even my mom, Karen's loudest cheerleader through it all, came to me with tears in her eyes and said, "I'm sorry, Rachel. I should have believed you. I should have protected you." It wasn't perfect. It didn't erase the betrayal. But it mattered. It was a beginning. Since then, I've been focused on reclaiming my life. I cut off all contact with Karen permanently. I set clear boundaries with Eric and my parents, boundaries that I'm sticking to no matter how uncomfortable it makes them. Eric, now separated from Karen, has been trying to make things right. He gave me a real apology and started going to therapy to unpack why he let himself fall under her influence. My parents have also begun to reflect, finally admitting they let things spiral way too far. Rebuilding trust is going to take time. But for once, it feels like we're moving forward, not just pretending everything's fine. This whole mess taught me something I didn't even know I needed to learn: the power of boundaries, the importance of self-respect, and the value of choosing peace over people-pleasing. And for the first time in a long time, I actually feel at peace. My relationships are healing. My life is finally back in my hands. And the future I'd always planned for myself? It's wide open again. Thanks for sticking with me through all of this, Reddit. It's been a wild ride, but I'm finally free to focus on what really matters now. Me.